Hello, good evening, and welcome to your favorite program, Business Live. It's a mixed bag of business news bulletin coming to you right here from your favorite station, Joy News. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji Biafi. In this edition, Ghana's future and the IMF program under threat as Member of Finance Committee in Parliament expresses lack of confidence in fourth review. Ghana's high population of the unbanked is said to be hampering financial inclusion in the rural settings in local industries. And local industries are expressing misgivings about the implementation process for renewable energy projects in their sector. These are the headlines. You can get interactive by tweeting at Joy Business GH on Facebook. You can visit our page, Joy Business. And for more business news updates, go on to myjoyonline.com/business. Coming up shortly will be the details. Don't worry. Thank you very much for staying and welcome back. Now, could Ghana's program with the IMF be under threat? That is the concern of some economists and members of parliament that Joy Business has engaged. This follows changes made to an act which originally sought to restrict Bank of Ghana's lending to government to 0% this year. George Rafi has more.
Fears about the program being put on hold has been influenced by government decision to rather propose a limit of 5% of the previous year's revenue when it comes to the current amendment being made to the Bank of Ghana Act instead of the 0% agreed with the IMF as part of conditions under the 3-year program with the fund. Member of Parliament's Finance Committee, Dr. Marcus Beyabua, tells Joy Business support the zero financing. He fears this might carry the wrath of the IMF, which might affect the program and disbursement of the next tranche of funds.
Technically, if you ask me, is there a program with the fund? For me, I think there's no program. Because there's only a program if they are disbursing. And the 4th tranche, they disbursed when we signed on. Then the second tranche came in August last year. January, they disbursed the 3rd tranche. The 4th tranche, which should have come in by now, it's not coming.
And the reasons being their inability to pass these laws and raising the borrowing to 5%.
Not just the laws, but the issue of the state-owned enterprises. As I told you, the debt portfolio of the state-owned enterprises. The fund is not clear. They think that the government is hiding some numbers. They want to know the extent of the debt of these SOEs. And then even the 2015 numbers, they are not happy with the numbers. The deficit, the debt, they think that somebody is hiding something from. So government has not been sincere in their dealings with the fund, and the fund is punishing them. But it's like a slow poison, you know. They won't tell you that we have abrogated the contract and disbursements are not being made. They still get you to do some of the things they want you to do, and they issue a statement. Funny enough, when they were leaving last time, they said, "Oh, the government is doing a clean bill of health." No, you are not disbursing.
For many, the IMF sees the passage of the Bank of Ghana Act to help restrict lending to 0% and sticking to all the agreement reached with government as critical, because that's the only way they can protect the Bank of Ghana's independence and check government's rising expenditure. But economist Dr. John Kwak is of the view that enforcing this proposal might be difficult.
I'm saying that it's a good thing. All that I'm saying is that the abrupt ending, of the lending can create problems for government, and it means that government will have to go to the market all the time. It can even crowd out the private sector. You see, they can crowd out the private sector because previously government was getting some of the financing from Bank of Ghana. Now they have to, do it entirely from the public sector.
For some, fears that the program could be cancelled because of this may not be justified. Now let's hear the reasons. On the part of government, this program is very critical to help convince investors that it is on track to stabilize the economy. Whilst on the part of the IMF, it also needs this program to succeed to convince other countries that are going through similar problems that they could turn to the fund for assistance.
That report was by George Rafi. Now, in a related development, the IMF is proposing a new date that its board will meet to review Ghana's performance under the program. Sources say the fund is now proposing August 29. However, this is subject to meeting certain critical targets like the passage of the Bank of Ghana Act and other issues. Sources say if government is not able to meet these targets, then the fund will go back to its September ending deadline. Now, moving on, majority of Ghana's population remains unbanked. The situation is said to be hampering financial inclusion, and the most affected are the people who live in rural Ghana. Experts warn the situation could further worsen income inequalities. In the first of a series of stories on poverty and inequalities, Joy News Justice Bedu meets the women in the Upper West region town of Dodoma, cut off from the country's mainstream financial system, who are finding their own ways of banking.
Everyday banking, but slightly different rules. These are the women of Dodoma at their local money savings meeting. It is modeled on the mainstream banking rules and gives loans to contributors using the communal bonding among the villagers as collateral. Were this to be a formal bank, the space under this tree would be the banking hall. This is banking in its most basic of forms. Now, this box here is what actually has every amount of money that is contributed at every sitting or meeting. And it also has these cards, which are the cards that record however much anybody contributes at the meeting. And what happens is that it has 3 different locks with 3 different keys, which are with 3 different people at any one point in time. And the box itself is also with another person. So what happens is that whoever has the keys do not have access to the box, and whoever has the box does not have the keys to them. It's just their own way of making sure that their money is safe.
Before you save money, you have to travel to Wa to go and save money. And you see, imagine the amount that you use to fare yourself to Wa to save money there and come home. And you look at these women are sitting down. How many of them can travel from here to Wa? That's why they just decided to make the box, which is also simply known as a what? It's a group. It's a local bank. So instead of them putting the money individually, they decide to farm together and put the money in this box.
What you didn't know?
With a growing number of people living in remote areas in Ghana, access to financial services is tough for people like the villagers of Dodoma. 70% of Ghana's population is still unbanked, according to a 2012 World Bank study.
I'm a widow and getting money is difficult. I borrow money from the box when I'm going to the hospital. I use some for laborers to work on my farm.
Poverty levels here are high. Sometimes when you get a visitor, you can't even buy food for them. So we borrow money from the box. Sometimes we borrow money to prepare our lands for the farming season.
Financial inclusion is crucial to ensure that the poorest of the poor in Ghana benefit from the country's economic growth. And it seems the big banks, so-called, need a lesson or two from the women of Dodoma on how to make this work.
Now, earlier, President of the Association of Rural Banks, Dr. Nabwana, commented on this particular situation.
Unlike the southern part, even though we have rural banks in the northern, the upper east and upper west, the influx is not as easy as it is in the south. Some parts of the west, some parts of the east, we are going to have problems in accessing banks. It's a matter of the culture. If people don't have the savings culture, no matter how accessible banks are, they may not be amenable to savings. Then again, it also depends upon the customer relationships between the banks and the people that want to save. The person has the money. Banks depend on deposits in order to get profit. So that if the customer services are not the best, you scare people off. In the first place, they don't want to come. So it's up to you to try and entice them with the way you welcome them to your bank, with the services that you provide. You don't let them stand for minutes, for hours before getting attended to. These kind of things are very, very important.
Moving on, local industries are expressing misgivings about the implementation process for the renewable energy projects in their sector. The project will see industries that generate their own power, like mining and steel firms, purchase a specified amount of renewable energy for their operations. This is towards attaining the 10% renewable energy target in the country's energy mix by 2020. According to the law, the Energy Commission is to fully implement the program before the end of the year. But the Association of Ghana Industries says this may not be realized unless a collaborative approach is adopted. The president of the association, James Asereje, explains.
If you have in your law, or you make a law that people should not litter around, and you don't provide litter bins where people can easily at public places put these litters in, are you going to say that you're going to enforce the law to the letter because it is a law? And that's why we're saying that, look, how do you expect a company to use its working capital to install solar energy, to install any form of a renewable energy source because it's in the law? It's not possible. So we think that we should collectively work at how we can make this sort of law implementable. It is not a matter of asking that, well, if you don't do it by this time, the government is going to sanction one company or the other. Beyond the talking, we should act because it's done elsewhere. And if we are looking for funding, we can't get several sources of funding that can support industry to gradually, install or put in place, such sort of mechanism, of getting cheaper power in the medium to long term. Let us understand that industry is not asking for a gift that give us money to install solar energy or renewable energy. Industry is asking that give us a kind of arrangement that would relieve us of that initial or sunk cost that would be so deterring, to those, even those who want to really buy into such a concept.
You're still watching Business Live. Now, government's continuous borrowing is threatening SMEs' access to financing. Several issues have been identified to be undermining the ability of SMEs to attract financing. Speaking to Joy Business ahead of the Ishmael Yamson and Associates Executive Business Roundtable, CEO of Ishmael Yamson and Associates, Raymond Aka, indicated that banks prefer investing in bonds rather than issuing loans to SMEs as a result of certainty and security concerns. The meeting will be held under the theme, Staying Viable and Profitable in Our Current Difficult Times.
Current economic developments in the country has caused most businesses to be operating under very difficult conditions. Though much of the challenges are attributed to macroeconomic conditions, some are attributed to internal factors of the organization. The senior partner and chief operations officer of Ishmael Yamson and Associates, Michael Yamson, shares some of these internal factors.
So now let me talk about 5 challenges that we believe arise from the decisions that entrepreneurs make. The first is the challenge of low technology. There is a tendency to buy the cheapest technology, but inherent in that low technology choice is a high operating cost. So we need to think hard about our technology choices as business owners. The second thing is the resilience of our businesses. We tend to say start small, and small is beautiful. But when you start so small that you don't even have the operating capital to keep the business going, then you introduce a certain fragility into the business. That means that you are unable to deal with even the smallest shocks. The third thing is the businesses are fragmented. So that integrated thinking across an industry doesn't happen. So everybody is fragmented. That's also an internal choice. The fourth thing is the kind of people we pick. We tend to pick the lowest cost person. And we don't tend to train that person. What happens is that you constrain your business in terms of its ability to generate innovation, to generate original thought, to generate exciting new concepts that will bring new business.
A key issue identified by many SMEs is accessing credit. The major reason for this challenge has been the increasing cost of credit.
Alright, so we're still on Business Live. We're now crossing over to take a look at some international business news updates.
You're welcome to Business Agenda on Business Live. And today, the focus is on electronic payment platforms in the country. Cybersecurity firm eCrimes Bureau is imploring on regulatory authorities to conduct an audit of all the payment platforms in the country to protect users' funds as well as avert acts like money laundering. Albert Nchubu is the founder and principal consultant of eCrimes Bureau.
As a cybersecurity agency, our concern has also been the level of standardization, security metrics that have been integrated into the e-payment platforms. Not just security, but also money laundering aspect. We did run a workshop with the FIC on this because money is moving across the network on e-payment infrastructure, and the AML Act requires that details of whoever is a mobile money patron should be left. So we need to examine, review the kind of platforms that are being used to run the mobile money infrastructure to ensure that they are, one, security compliant, and two, AML compliant. That means that if money is transferred from one network to the other, one platform to the other, we should be able to trace the money. I mean, in other words, who is behind the movement of these funds? That is crucial. Security-wise, we need to ascertain there should be certain level of security. If you are using a username and a password just alone to run e-payment system, that system is not fit for purpose from cybersecurity perspective. So this is what a regulator will have to go in and do before you run an application is deployed as an e-payment or e-money payment architecture application. We need to have certain benchmarks that those applications and systems should meet. I think with that we can guarantee, we can safeguard the mobile money infrastructure. It's very important.
Albert Nchubu is the founder and principal consultant at cybersecurity firm eCrimes Bureau. So what has the regulator got to say about this? The National Communications Authority, NCA, agrees lapses in the e-payment platforms can compromise users' funds as well as other threats. But according to the authority, measures are being put in place to tackle the issues, and this includes engagements with the Bank of Ghana to reconsider reviewing the regulatory framework. Nana Defiebedu is the Consumer and Corporate Affairs Director of the NCA.
Bank of Ghana regulates the banking and financial environment, and we regulate the communications environment. The NCA, together with the Bank of Ghana, has sat down to look at where our regulatory activities can work together. So very soon, I'm sure the public will be hearing of a collaboration between Bank of Ghana and then the National Communications Authority. We want to make sure that whichever platforms that people are using for banking is adequately regulated for the benefit of consumers. So the Bank of Ghana keeps an eye on the financial aspect and the NCA keeps an eye on the communication aspect.
Nana Defie Bedu is the Consumer and Corporate Affairs Director at the National Communications Authority, NCA. Do join us again next week for another edition of the Business Agenda right here on Business Live.
All right, so make a date on every Thursday for the Business Agenda. Now, women's manufacturing businesses have been advised to invest in quality equipment of their operations to enable them survive the current economic challenges. Speaking to Joy Business at the opening of the new Michelin Thai Service Center in Tema, Managing Director of Wellman Ghana Limited, Carsten Dewar, intimated that acquiring quality machinery for industrial production makes operations cost efficient and pays off in the long term. That's on Interview of the Day.
Going through some challenges, as we all know, and I think that is even why it's more important that we are all looking into what are we buying, what are services are we looking for. The more and the better products we are buying, the better services we are receiving, the more cost efficient it will be at the end of the day. So that's why I know that in many cases buying power just dictates the price that we can afford. But it is important to know that where this limitation is not necessarily there and you can afford to go for a better product and a better service, it definitely pays by a longer life expectancy.
Wrapping up on the program Business Live. Thank you very much for your attention. Hope you've enjoyed every aspect of it. And do make a date again tomorrow, same time, for another package. My name is Emmanuel Abraji. We are free. Good evening.